Hello and welcome to this small interview with Marc Darroze from Armagnac, Darroze Armagnacs. I'm Rasmus Brøchner Hansen. I'm the head of CRT Spirits who import Darroze to Denmark, and I'm very happy to sit here beside Marc and have him here in Denmark to have a bit of talk about Armagnac.
Thank you, Rasmus. Pleasure.
Marc, could you tell us a bit about yourself and Darroze Armagnacs?
So my name is Marc. I am the very lucky representative owner of a family business Armagnac company. We distill some spirit from different farms, different estates that we will age for many years. With a very authentic and classic way of maturation in Armagnac.
Yeah. What would you say, if we talked in general about Armagnac, what can you tell us in general about Armagnac? Maybe also in comparison to other spirits, for instance cognac, which is often compared to Armagnac.
Yeah, we are both the main brandies produced in France in two different areas, two different regions. Of course, we are much smaller than the big brother of cognac, but what can I say is our character and authenticity is due to the fact that we use different grape varieties. We have 4 main grape varieties, and of course, each variety will give a different character, a unique character to the spirit. Also, we have a special distillation. We single distill. We distill only once with a continuous alembic. That's very typical from Armagnac. And during this distillation, there is a contact between the vapors distilled and the wine non-distilled. And that's when we take out the wine, all the character, all the special identity of the year, of the terroir, of the wine, of the grape. And we often say that Armagnac is a little bit more authentic, earthy, more, wild compared to cognac. And that's, of course, a way for us to be different and to propose something different.
Yeah. So, at the house of Darroze, could you tell us a bit about the story of Darroze Armagnac? How your family got into the business? And
first at all, we are a restaurateur family. My grandfather was a very famous chef in the 50s, in the 60s. He had 2-star Michelin, the restaurant had 2 stars with a nice hotel. And at this time, it was very easy and it was possible for a chef like that to go directly to the farm, to buy some chicken, to buy some ducks, to buy some foie gras, to buy some vegetables, to buy some food that he used to cook. And by tradition in Armagnac, the farmers are not only oriented on one activity, they have different activities, and one of the activities has always been to produce wine and to distill the wine to make an Armagnac. And when my father and grandfather went to visit the producer to buy some food, they had the opportunity to taste some incredible old Armagnacs that the producer used to keep as a treasure for the bad days, for the next generation.
Yeah.
And at the restaurant in the 50s, in the 60s, we always had a very large selection of Armagnac, of single casks coming from different origin, different terroir. And my father, Francis, end of the 60s, has decided to propose to the same producer to buy some cask and to bottle himself and to sell to different restaurants in France. That was really the beginning of the story. And the idea, of course, was as a sommelier, as a restaurateur, to really keep each Armagnac separate, not to blend the different origin together, to show the diversity of each farm, each grape variety, each year. So that was really the beginning of the company, end of the 60s. And of course, year after year, we have grown We have now about 30 different producer partner for the company. We distill every year in all these different estates. We control the maturation, so we have, of course, more and more inventory, a lot of different origins, and we make two main different lines. One is it's an Armagnac coming from a single estate, single farm, where we always indicate
the unique series.
Exactly, when we always indicate the origin and the name of the farm, and a more classic line for spirit, where we blend different origin to have something more consistent in style.
Yeah, called the
Grands Assemblages.
Grands Assemblages. Yeah. Is there, when you took over the business, was there anything you did different?
Well, of course, my first job, I was winemaker. I made a wine for almost 10 years before coming back home. I made a wine in Tokai, in Hungary. I made one in Sonoma County in the US. I made one in Bordeaux, a little bit in Portugal. So of course, when you arrive, you are fresh. You are young, fresh, and so you are maybe a little bit more active.
Yeah.
But one of the value of our company is the authenticity.
Yeah.
So we of course we are very respectful for the rules that we have been doing from generation and generation.
Yeah.
We use the same oak. We use local oak. We have the same copper. We use the same alembic for years and years and years. So of course, for example, we have imagined new line. That's my idea.
Okay.
But with always the respect of what we have done in this area for many years.
Yeah. And now the Darroze Armagnac is one of the most famous in France. You will find it in most 3-star Michelin restaurants.
Yes, due to the fact that we respect the product, and also with the connection with the restaurants, our history, the history of the family. It's true that we are very strong in the restaurant industry. Again, each Armagnac will be different, and that's what the sommelier like. They like to propose something different. They like to explain to the client why they have made this choice. So I believe that our philosophy corresponds to what they are looking for. So that's also the reason why we are very present in restaurants. But we are also very present in wine shop and liquor store, because this quality of product is asked for people. Yeah. By people.
So when we do a lot of different spirits here in CRT Spirits, but when we got in the Armagnac from you, people were really excited. We call ourselves spirits expert aficionados, but everybody here was really excited, and it's Armagnac. It's a spirit who talks to people who like spirits. Do you think the fact that is one of the few spirits which are really terroir driven talk to the nerds or expert of the spirits industry?
But what is true is that we know exactly where we produce, we know exactly where the wine is coming from. So we cannot buy some wine from Spain or Italy or somewhere in France to make an Armagnac. So we exactly know where we have the vineyard. So there is a traceability from the vineyard to the bottle, for sure. And that's not so usual in the spirit. There is some spirit where you don't know exactly where is the origin of the product. So for sure it helps. And I will speak again about the distillation. This different distillation with our alembic also permits to keep a lot of character, to really protect the original typicity of the wine and the spirit. So maybe that's also the reason why a lot of people say that Armagnac is very close to the soil, very close, healthy, and we like that. We like that, of course.
Yeah. Besides these two series, you made a new line called Luxe Gascon. Can you talk a bit about that
Alors,
series?
what I call the Luxe Gascon is not having a shining label or something like that. It's really a question of product. As I explained, by tradition in Armagnac, producer used to distill the wine, and they like to keep their cask a little bit as a saving account for the bad days. So the bad days can be to change a tractor, to purchase a piece of land close to the property, to change the roof of the house, or to marry the daughter. As soon as there is a need of cash, they used to sell a cask or two casks to a merchant as a saving account. And of course, in some families, this is not rare to keep cask for decades, 40 years, 50 years, 60 years. And sometimes we have some producer calling us and to propose for different reasons they want to sell. It can be an heritage more often. And in this case, we have the opportunity to buy some incredible small lot of very old Armagnacs. When I say very old, that's in the 20s, in the 30s, in the 40s. Something very rare. Of course, something very limited in quantity. This is usually stored in what we call damajan, this big glass bottle, where we stop the evaporation, where we stop the evolution of the product. And usually in the past, that's how we made the selection for the very old Grand Assemblage for the 60 years old. We have a very old blend, 60 years. And usually we make this choice, we choose these Armagnacs for this blend. But sometimes the Armagnac is so expressive, so fresh, so young, so nice, and I believe it was a shame to lose the traceability and to blend all together. So I've decided to work on a special line that I call the Luxe Gascon. So the Luxe for me in Gascony is this capacity for people to keep Armagnac for so many years, and to bottle in a special decanter that we have imagined only for us. So we worked during 2 years on a special carafe in crystal, made in crystal in Normandy in France. And so each Armagnac will be very limited in quantity, between 25 bottles to maximum. This is the vintage 1929. We have 121 or 22 decanters, so it's very limited. Of course, it's rare and expensive, but this is so incredible to be able to keep spirit for so many years. So that's amazing. And what is amazing, it's they are all. You had the opportunity to test some of them yesterday, and they are all very young, fresh. They are not dead. They are completely alive. And that's the reason why I've made this choice to bottle each one separately, and to explain it was possible to keep Armagnac for such a long time and keep the freshness and youngness.
Yeah, it's an amazing product. You wouldn't guess that this is from the 20s when you drank it.
In a blind tasting, it's incredible.
Yeah, but it will. These, as you said, they will be kept like 40, 50 years on woods, and then they will move it from the woods because of the wood extraction would just be too much.
It's more than 40, 50 years. It's more 60 years.
Okay.
After 60 years, you already have to pay attention on your Armagnac in the cask, because you lose the angel share, so you lose some alcohol every month, every year. And if you lose too much alcohol, you also lose a part of the freshness of the spirit. Alcohol is very important in our spirit, of course, because it's a spirit, but also because it's a part of the balance. I always look at the balance of the product, balance between the alcohol, the flavors, and the tannins. And sometimes when you lose too much alcohol, you can cut the balance. And it takes 50 years to get the balance, and you can cut it if you don't stop rapidly. So that's the reason why after 55, 60, 65 years, it depends on the conditions of the cellar, if it's humid or not, if it's dry or not, if it's hot or not. But you must transfer in the glass, in the damajan, to really stop the evolution.
Yeah.
So that's all these armagnacs have spent minimum 55 years in the cask, sometimes more.
Okay. When you look at your two lines, I guess that the one that the cellar master you really have to work with a lot is the assemblage series, because you cannot blend it by recipe because it will evolve. So sometimes you will have more 21-year-old in there to get the right balance to offer almost the same taste every time.
The idea on the grand assemblage means in French the great blends.
Yeah.
And the idea is really to be consistent in style. If we are looking for diversity in the collection, in the unique collection, we are looking for something more consistent in the blends. If you like the 20 years old, my job is to be able to reproduce almost the same style, blends after blends.
Yeah.
So it means that we blend a lot of different armagnacs together,
Yeah.
minimum 12, 15 different armagnacs, to be sure that we won't have one armagnac in the blend which will really give the character of the spirit. And also what we do is when we have 1/3 of the blend in the cask, we use this third for the next blend. So we always have a base in the blend coming from the last one. So that's also a security to keep the same style. That's a completely different approach than choosing some cask, of course. And maybe it's more difficult. And it's very difficult for the youngest will be the armagnac, the most difficult, of course.
Yeah. So you'll do the blends, and then finally, when they're ready to be bottled, you'll taste them. And is it you who said, now it's ready, now we have the consistency?
It's always step by step, of course.
Yeah.
That you don't arrive and
then
in
the
an
last
hour.
moment, no.
So it's of course step by step. In the same time, we dilute a little bit the young armagnacs in the blends, where in the unique collection they are all cask strength. So we only lose some alcohol every year, and we bottle at the natural level of alcohol. In the blends, we dilute a little bit to 43. 43 to me is this is the minimum to get to keep the freshness and to keep the character of the product. If you dilute, myself, I don't like the spirit too much diluted, because you dilute the alcohol, but also you dilute the flavors and the tannins and the structure. So 43 to me is really the lowest, but we also use a lot this line to educate people. So it's important not to have too much alcohol, because when you don't really, you're not an aficionado of spirit, sometimes the alcohol can hurt you. So at this level of alcohol, it's maybe more approachable, easier to drink. So we blend step by step, and we dilute step by step. So to be sure that when the blend will be finished, everything will be all together, mellow, mixed correctly, and we don't bottle the armagnac earlier than 3 months after the end of the blend. So when I have finished the blend, we let the armagnac without anything during minimum 3-4 months. Okay, before starting the bottling.
And then if we take the unique series, you bottle it when you have orders.
Exactly.
So there will be a difference if I order this exact bottle now or in 5 months. Let's say 5 months.
You're right.
Then there will be a difference.
In fact, as you can see on all our labels, you will find, of course, our signature, our brand, our name, but also, for example, here, Chateau de Laït, so the name of the farm. So each armagnac is coming from a single farm. You will also find the year of the production, the vintage,
Mm-hmm.
the year when we have produced the wine and distilled the wine.
Mm-hmm.
And we always indicate the months and the year of the bottling. And also how many years it stays in the cask. So when you read the main label, you have the identity of the Armagnac. You really can understand the product, because when you speak about a vintage spirit, if you don't know exactly the date of the bottling, it's difficult for you to know how much time the Armagnac stays in the cask.
Of course, yeah.
And as you know, spirits don't age anymore in the glass.
No.
So it's very important to know the vintage and the date of the bottling.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, because we have so many different estates in maturation in our cellars and so many vintages, it could be a shame to bottle a complete cask. We could lose months and sometimes years of maturation.
Mm-hmm.
So we prefer to bottle by hand. So we have a small machine, very small machine. We put all the labels by hand, and to bottle on demand.
Mm-hmm.
So it's true that when you send us an order,
Mm-hmm.
we specially bottle for you.
Mm-hmm.
So for example, these Armagnacs have been bottled in October this year, 2019,
Mm-hmm.
and your next order for the same Armagnac will be maybe 6 months older or a year older.
Yeah.
So it doesn't change too much, but after 10 years, of course, it's changing, but every 6 months, it doesn't, the style will stay the same.
Yeah.
The alcohol must be a little bit lower,
Mm-hmm.
but we keep the same character. But that's really a way for us to maintain the spirit in conditions of maturation, or conditions of aging.
Yeah, great. Should we try a glass of the Assemblage?
Okay.
And maybe for people who don't know Armagnac as well, we could try and you could try and explain what flavors to look for in an Armagnac.
We will try the 20 years old. So 20 years old is a blend of Armagnac from 20 to 26 years. Of course, by the law, all the spirits produced in Europe, when you indicate the age on the label, that's always the age of the youngest Armagnac that you have used in the blend.
Mm-hmm.
You can use older, but you cannot use younger. Okay, so in this case, it's an Armagnac made from 20 to 26 years old.
Mm.
Of course, when you have an Armagnac, it's not possible to compare 4, 5, 8 years old with a 20 or 40 years old.
Of course.
The evolution of the Armagnac will give different character. Of course, when it's young, you can expect more fruity character, especially if you have mature, you have kept your Armagnac in old barrels, if you don't use too much new oak. And in this case, in the Armagnac tradition, the flavors that you can find are prune, fig, quince, of this kind of ripe flavors. We always say fig jams, this kind of flavors. That's typical from Armagnac. It can be also you can also find some flowers, especially for the young Armagnacs, and white fruits like pear, apple when it's very young. In an Armagnac like that, 20 years old, so we still have some fruit, but we also have the influence of the maturation. So the maturation is important because, of course, the cask will bring some character to the spirit, spicy, cocoa, chocolate, coffee, all these toasted flavors.
Yeah.
But also during the maturation, there is a natural oxidation through the oak, which really not affect but will change the flavors. So we also have a lot of oxidation flavors, like we have in the old ports, this kind of rancio that we can find in the old ports. And this is typical from Armagnac, this almost mushroom, but nice mushroom that you can
Like an
feel.
earthy
Exactly, and
feeling. Yeah.
that's what we spoke about. This identity of the Armagnac, more earthy.
Yeah.
It's these flavors explain also that.
Yeah.
Typical in this 20 years old, this earthy character. Licorice also.
Yeah, and still, it has a freshness to it. It's still a fairly old spirit, 20 years old and more. Do you during the maturation, do you move it from one cask to another, maybe from new woods to older woods, and how do you work with that?
This is very, very important, especially for this old spirit. If you keep the spirit in the same barrel from the distillation to the bottling, you can really have an oaky infusion. Usually we start the maturation in new oak. A new barrel for us is a barrel completely new to 2 years old.
Mm-hmm.
That's when we take out the maximum of the color from the cask, because we do not use any coloring.
No.
So all the colors are completely natural due to the contact between the oak and the spirit. And so the first step of maturation in the new oak will take between 18 months to 3 years, depending on the grade, depending on the year. There is no recipe that we follow every year, so we test regularly each cask to see the evolution, and we make the decision to transfer in older cask. Of course, to continue the maturation, but not to really give too much oaky character to the spirit. So that's very, very important to stop the first step, the first stage of maturation in the new cask after, again, 18 months to 3 years, and also after 10 years to transfer in very old barrel. In this case, we don't want any more tannins, so we want to continue the oxidation and the maturation, but we use some very old barrel, completely washed by the time, so there is no more tannins inside. So there is always different steps during the system.
So when you get a new cask in, you will toast it on the inside.
Alors, it's as you know, this is we must burn the heat the oak to curve.
Yeah.
So first, during the process, you heat the wood, the oak, but when your barrel is finished, there is different solution. You can stop, and you don't burn inside. So it means that you won't give any toasty character to the spirit, or you can completely burn everything, like in the US, for example, for the bourbon.
Yeah.
And in this case, of course, you will give a lot of toasted character, and it accelerates a little bit the process during the maturation.
Yeah. And it also helps with the coloring.
Of course,
Yeah.
of course. In Armagnac, there is different schools, but we don't burn too much compared to bourbon, for example.
Oh.
In my experience, and maybe now because I'm getting older, I am using less and less new oak and less burn oak.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean that we don't burn the barrel, but we burn a little bit differently. We prefer to keep the barrel a long time on the fire, but it's not really fire. There is no flame.
Oh, okay.
It's when the oak is we have finished to burn it.
Yeah,
there is always some
charcoals. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so we will keep that, but for maybe half an hour, 40 minutes. And my experience is showing that to really emphasize the flavors, that's a good system.
Okay.
So that's what we do more and more. So we toast light, but a long toast.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Interesting. Should we taste this Armagnac?
So this Armagnac is made with 2 different grapes, Uni Blanc and Baco. Baco is a local grape.
Yeah.
that we only distill. In Armagnac, we also make some wine to drink. Tobacco is only used to make wine to distill.
Yeah.
So we want to use the tobacco for table wine. And the tobacco, especially on the sandy soil of a part of Armagnac that we call Darroze Armagnacs, give this body, this incredible intensity that you can feel on the Armagnac. That's also a way for us to be different than cognac, is that we use different grapes, and this grape that I like a lot personally give a special balance and a special body to the Armagnac. And so it's an explosion when you put in the palate. It's an explosion. There is not any aggressivity, but it's really an explosion of intensity and flavors. And it's so long in the palate. That's really the tobacco which will give this unique character. And Uni Blanc is more delicate. So for the elegant flavors, it's interesting in this 20 years old to blend Uni Blanc and Baco. Usually the very old Armagnacs in our collection and in our blends are mainly made with Baco. And the
100% Baco?
Sometimes, yes, in the 60, for example, in the 50, 60 years old. In the youngest Armagnac, so the youngest we propose today is 8 years old.
Yeah.
Okay, it's mainly Uni Blanc.
Okay.
Okay, because the Uni Blanc is ready more rapidly.
Better young. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
And the Colombard, you don't use so much.
We have Uni Blanc, Baco, as I said. The number 3 is the Folle Blanche.
Yeah.
Folle Blanche is a very interesting grape. In Armagnac, as many different wine areas in Europe, we lost our vineyard with the phylloxera. So the phylloxera is a little animal in the soil who has destroyed all the roots and all the vineyards. And before the phylloxera, almost all the vineyards in Armagnac were planted with Folle Blanche. So that's really the oldest grape in our region. Unfortunately, after the phylloxera, we have not replanted a lot of Folle Blanche because it was very fragile. Okay. Very fragile with the phylloxera, but also very fragile with the botrytis. The mushrooms. Yeah. So it was a shame, but we have lost a little bit the Folle Blanche. Today we replant some because it's a very elegant style spirit, very interesting, and also because we have improved our work in the vineyard. So to control the vineyard, it's easier today with our technique, with new techniques. And I like the Folle Blanche a lot because, again, that's a grape which helps to be different, not to be the best, because it doesn't mean anything, but to be different is important. And Baco and Folle Blanche are really two grapes to be different. And after that, we also use another grape that we call the Colombard, which is not honestly my favorite grape. But it's interesting when you blend with other ones. So it's we use the Colombard to blend. This is a grape that we use a lot to make some white wine to drink. Yeah. Very fresh, very easy style, and we produce a lot of white wine in Gascony, so in Armagnac. And sometimes we can also distill the Colombard. For example, the 89, this one is a mix of Uni Blanc and Colombard.
But you will never make a 100% Colombard? You have that in your range? No.
We have 100% Baco, we have 100% Folle Blanche, we have 100% Uni Blanc, and not Colombard. Okay.
Should we try and taste the 40 years old and compare it to the 20-year-old?
Of course.
And see what happens.
So if you look at the color, it's a bit more intense, a bit darker. Again, all the colors are completely natural. So the older will be the Armagnac, usually the darker it will be. Especially if you use some new oak at the beginning and like that. And of course, all the flavors after like 20 years more.
Yeah.
So it's a lot.
Yeah.
Will change.
Yeah.
So we have less fruit, for sure.
Yeah.
And we have much more character.
More dried fruit.
Or dried fruit.
Yeah. But still, for 40.
Cinnamon.
For 40-year-old spirits, it's just young and.
Yes, it is. This one is also 43, but natural. We after so many years in the cask, of course, we have the angel share, so the evaporation every year. So we lose some alcohol every year. So it's 42.
Around 2% you use you lose a year.
Alors we use
more?
a little bit more than 2% in volume.
Yeah.
We calculate in pure alcohol. Pure alcohol is volume and alcohol. The drier will be the cellar. If you have some very dry cellars, you lose more water, more volume. Because when we say 50% of alcohol, there is 50% of water, of course.
Yeah, of course.
So, of course, when it's the cellars are very dry, you lose more volume, more spirit in volume, and also you will limitate the evolution. You know, it's if it's very humid, you accelerate the maturation.
So you're trying to keep a balance between the water and alcohol.
We have different cellars where we control the humidity, and we stop the maturation in more humid conditions to lose rapidly some alcohol, because when it's humid you lose more alcohol. And after 6-7 years we transfer in drier cellars, because we don't want to accelerate too much the maturation. So that's always again a balance.
Yeah.
A question of test. Very important to test regularly each cask to see the evolution, and that's the only way to really evaluate the Armagnac.
How often do you test one cask? You have many casks, so I guess that's a big job, testing every single cask.
That's always the question. When the Armagnac is younger than 5 years, we test at least once a year. Alors, it doesn't mean that we test each cask, because, for example, same estate, same vintage, if we have 6, 7, 10 casks, the first year we always test each cask to see if there is no problem with the cask. Sometimes the wood can have a problem. That's rare, but so that's very important when you buy a new cask, ready to test the Armagnac 3 or 4 months after, to see if there is no problem with the cask. As soon as you are sure that the cask is very good, that it's not necessary to test each cask. But when we will blend the 7 casks from the same origin and the same year together, we test the blend. And that's when I decide, okay, I pump back in the same cask. So we use the same cask because I believe that we must keep the same barrels. Or we can say, okay, 50% of the volume will be in the same cask and 50% in the older ones.
Okay.
And the year after, again. So it's better to test all the casks together, because you're sure that you won't miss something, than to test each cask. And that's also a way for us to be sure that when we decide to bottle, to sell, the lot will be unique. Because if you don't blend all the casks together, each cask can be different, of course. Okay?
Yeah.
Of course, it's even if it's the same level of alcohol, the feeling when you put in your palate, it's soft, and after that's an explosion. The tannins are very soft, round, silky, and it's more on the leather, this kind of, honey.
Very intense.
Very intense.
It's a wonderful, wonderful Armagnac.
And if you think about the history of this Armagnac, 40 years in the cask. So there is Armagnac from 40 to 46 years in the blend. When you lose 2.5% every single year, it means that after 25 years we calculate that we have lost about half the cask just in evaporation.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of course, a lot of time, a lot of money sleeping, of course. But of course, this evaporation is important to have this roundness and complexity.
Yeah, like it's like a bit like a sauce cooking in, intensifying the flavors. Yeah.
Right.
So when you put a new Armagnac on oak, and you gotta leave it for 40 years at least to do this one, 20 to do this one, it's more an investment for your family, your children, than it is for you.
Yeah, but on the other way, if we are able to bottle today some 40 years, it's because the last generation did the job. So,
Of course, yeah.
so we are very patient in Armagnac, that's for sure. We are in a niche market. Already Armagnac is a niche market. Maybe because we have decided only to produce and propose some Armagnac at this age, we are in the niche of the niche.
Yeah.
So we are lucky because we sell bottles in more than 50 countries in the world. So even if the market is a niche market, the image of Armagnac is quite good.
Yeah.
We really have the image to have something, to propose something natural, to propose something again close to the terroir, to the soil, and so the reputation is good. And if the demand is not huge, that's also the reason why we are able to keep Armagnac for such a long time.
Yeah.
If you look at the success of other categories in the spirits today, they don't have all product.
No.
Not so much, because the success is so important that they sell, and they don't take time to age.
Yeah.
So maybe the reason why, well, the positive reason of this niche market is that we are able to keep Armagnacs for a long time, and to propose this age for a fair price. Because if you compare the price of a 40 years old Armagnac and the price of a 40 years old Scotch whiskey or rum, it's just completely different. So.
The quality, price, it's an amazing spirit. What you get, if you have a 40-year-old whiskey, it will be thousands of euros.
And again, one of the reasons why it's a little bit unconnected, I don't know how to say, it's because again, there is this tradition in Armagnac to use the spirit as the reserve.
Yeah.
So you don't calculate exactly the cost.
Yeah, for the rainy days. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't calculate exactly the cost of the maturation and everything, but you keep that for the next generation or for the bad days.
But there are producers of Armagnac. You don't do it at Darroze, that put out VS Armagnac and younger Armagnac than the 8-year-olds, which is yours. Youngest.
Yeah. In my company, we have decided not to use the name VS, VSOP, XO, because to me this is not transparent enough. There is some VSOP, or the minimum it's 4.5 years, but some brands will propose a VSOP closer than 10 years old. The same for XO, so you never know exactly. At least when you say 28, 12, 14, you know exactly the minimum age of the Armagnac. So that's important for me. And after, about the very young Armagnacs, it's true that usually VSOP, you have to work a little bit more during the maturation. It means that sometimes you have to add a little bit sugar, you need to make something sweeter. age naturally the Armagnac and propose an Armagnac very, very young, that's difficult. That's really difficult. People ask for color, and after 2 years of maturation, the color is very light. So you have also to compensate a little bit the color, which is completely allowed. There is no problem about that. That's not what I like.
No.
I like the authenticity. I like to respect the product, and that's the reason why we don't have in our offer any Armagnac younger than 8 years, because I consider that 8 years is the minimum to really have something interesting. And if you look at the 8 years old, it's pale in color. We didn't use any new oak. We really wanted to keep the fruity character, and it's more for people who really understand spirit than for occasional drinkers.
Of course, you love your Armagnac, but you also have love for other kind of spirits, and you have another project called the Clem.
Yes, Baptiste Clems. In fact, I have 2 sons, Baptiste and Clément. So that's their name. And in fact, I've been working in this industry for now almost 25 years. I can say that I am lucky because I am working with a product, plenty of history. We have founded traces of distillation in Gascony in Armagnac 700 years ago. Again, we have the chance to still find some very old product like that. More than that, I also have my name on the label, so it helps to, and I am traveling around the world to promote and to explain what we are doing. I'm living in Gascony, in Armagnac, so that's where I like to live. So I am lucky. I am a lucky man. And also, the reason why I'm lucky is because I meet every month, every year, some people like you that you like what you are doing, and some other producers. And so we are sharing a lot what we are doing, the technique we are using to, of course, try to always improve our product. And we also test a lot of different nice spirits from different parts of the world. And I really like the rum. I really found that there is we can compare Armagnac and rum for many points. Because of the distillation, maybe, because of course the origin is completely different, the cane and the vine. And I had the idea to select a few casks from different origins, different countries and different producers, to transfer this cask in Gascony, in my cellars, and to try to make a special finish in different casks. So we use cask from Sauternes, so the classic sweet wine from Bordeaux. We use cask from Jurançon, which is also a sweet wine from southwest of France, close to the Pyrenees, with more acidity in the wine. So a different balance with between Sauternes and Jurançon. Of course, we also use Armagnac cask, and we make a finish during 6 months, 12 months, sometimes a little bit more. And so it's a game. It's more a game than really a job, because it's always just few casks of each origin. But it's interesting, and we don't sell too much for the export market. We are more focused on the domestic market for that. Of course, there is a demand on rum, as you know. We have different style, because we have rums from Martinique and Guadeloupe, which are classic rum directly from the juice. But we also have a lot of rums from Mélas, from different part of the world. So it really gives a different character to the spirit. And of course, we never blend all together, and we always indicate on the label, for example, this one, made in Guadeloupe from a distillery called Rimonenc, 1999 vintage. When one lot is finished, we put in the bottle another one, so we play, and so it's interesting.
You're enjoying yourself.
We do.
But also in that line you have a Calvados and a
in
cognac?
fact, we always have, in the line we propose always 7 different products.
Okay.
It's 5 rums
Mhm.
and 1 cognac and 1 Calvados.
Okay.
Okay, the Calvados and the cognac are selected with some friends, but we don't make any finish on that. We only make finish on the rum. Okay, we want to. I don't like the idea to make a finish on the apple, for example, which is very typical because it's an apple brandy.
I understand. Well, thank you very much. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
coming here to Denmark, and
you.
cheers.